Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be going over the Necromancer summon ability known as Golemastery. So previously I went over the Clay Golem, and the Blood Golem, and the Iron Golem, and the Fire Golem, but I didn't go over Golemastery, and I think Golemastery deserves a little bit of love because it does have some pretty amazing effects as far as like how it makes your golems tanky and more useful. But it also has another negative effect, which we're going to have to talk about. So first off, let's talk about the positive. What does Golemastery do for your golems? Well, it increases their life tremendously. Honestly, it increases their life more than pumping the points into the skill itself. It's kind of crazy, actually. I'm going to go ahead and reset my character real quick. I'm going to show you the difference between putting points in directly and putting points in to mastery. So if I have a Clay Golem here, and I put 1 point into him, you'll see his life is 948. If I bump his skills up to maximum, he goes up to 2,777 at a level of level 27. So 2,777 life, which isn't too bad. However, if I reset this, and I dump the points instead into the Clay Golem, I dump them into the Golemastery, you'll notice that his life is now 6,072. So the life of my Clay Golem has gone up ridiculously by dumping the points into Golemastery instead of the Golem itself, which makes them far tankier and far better as minions. It also increases their attack rating, which means they hit more often, which doesn't normally matter all that much, especially for some of these golems that have really crappy damage. But if you are relying on the hit to actually help keep them alive, maybe in the case of the Blood Golem for the lifesteal, the attack rating is nice. We also have run walk speed. Now, run walk speed is both a positive and a negative here, and I did talk about Golemastery having a negative, and this is actually the negative. The run walk speed actually means that the golem will more often than not be at the front of the pack in terms of your monsters. And you might be asking, why is that a negative thing? Well, the answer to that question is because the golem is really bad damage. Your golem is not there to dish out damage. He's there to be a meat shield. He's there to be a tank, okay? And in certain situations, he is always in the front, and he's always blocking the other minions that you might have because he is always in the front. So one of the things that you have to do when it comes to the Clay Golem is you have to make sure that he's not in the front in situations where he can block things. And to give you an idea of what I mean, I'm going to head over here and I'm going to summon an army real quick. So let me go ahead and grab some skeletons real quick just so that I have something. And I'm going to show you what I mean here. Alright, so I've got 9 skeletons, right? And I'm going to head my way over to Arcane Sanctuary, which I feel like is a good place to show this off. It's not the tightest place, but it's pretty bad. And let's go the route that has the stairs, which is the worst one. And we're going to put our little golem here, for no particular reason, at the front of the stairwell. All right? Now, in this particular case, we got 1 skeleton that's in the front, so it's not too terrible. But you notice that the golem is now preventing the entire army from moving forward in this particular case. The golem is blocking things, and the army doesn't want to move forward because he's blocking everything that's going on. The run walk speed causes the army, or rather the golem, to constantly be at the front of the pack when you generally don't want him to be. Now, what you have to do is you usually just have to resummon him. So if you are using either the Clay Golem, the Blood Golem, or the Fire Golem, you can do this, but obviously you cannot do this with the Iron Golem. But what you're going to do is you're going to cast him at the back instead of at the front. You want to make sure that your golem is never blocking the army. And this, unfortunately, becomes an issue a lot because your golem tends to be faster than everything else that you've got. So in a lot of situations, your golem will be in the front, blocking the damage output that your army is capable of. So keep that in mind if you do build maximum golem mastery to beef up the golem, which is a pretty nice way to get the tanky golem. Now, of course, you could double it up, and you could go with max clay golem with max golem mastery, and in that case, you're going to be sitting at 17,776 life, which is pretty insane, and you really don't need that much life on your golem. That's like ludicrous levels of golem life. But if you are just trying to have the tankiest golem known to man, I mean, that is one way that you can do it. And obviously, he can get even tankier. So if we were to go to a Necromancer that has more plus to skills, something like I got quite a few test characters here that just have massive skills for no reason. Yes, this particular one is running some pretty nice plus to skill equipment. So if we were to throw in our points here, you can see he now has a level 45 clay golem with a total of 45,100 life. So absolutely insane, right? But the cool thing is you don't really need to pump points into the golem itself, because if you have a really high level of golem mastery like this with 900% increased life, just 1 point into the golems is actually more than enough. So as you can see, my blood golem now has 38,220 life with a base point of 1. My Iron Golem now has 9,849 with a base point of 1. And my Fire Golem has 10,180 with a base point of 1. I don't have to dump points into these to get their life beefed up to its maximum. Now you can, of course, like I said, you can throw points into them and beef them up a little bit more. Now my Blood Golem is at 62,000 life, and so forth and so on. And as you can see, dumping points into them can definitely bring their life up higher, but you don't really need to. The golem's main purpose in life is just simply to be the tank. He doesn't need to be the damage output, unless you're doing the fire golem. And if you're doing the fire golem, you're doing the fire golem for damage output. That's really what the fire golem is for. He doesn't really have another purpose. He's not a very good tank, to be honest with you. Even maxed out, he's not a very good tank. He's really there to do damage. And the Iron Golem is there to stay alive. Like, you don't want him for damage output. You want him to stay alive as much as humanly possible. In which case, if you were building an Iron Golem Necromancer, that is the one case that I would probably recommend that you actually build Blood Golem, which is the synergy that adds life to Iron Golem. So if you max out Blood Golem, Iron Golem will get a huge life bonus. Whereas if you max out the Golem himself, notice his life does not go up from maxing out the actual golem. So if you do want to get the toughest golem that you possibly can in terms of the Iron Golem, like his HP, you want his HP as high as possible, you definitely want to make sure that you beef up Blood Golem, not Iron Golem. So max out your Golem Mastery, which is what we're talking about, and then max out your Blood Golem, which is going to give your Iron Golem the best possibility of staying alive. Because that's going to give you 5% life per level for each level in the Blood Golem, and the other two don't really matter. And so for basically 40 points right here, you have basically the best investment. Now, the bonus that Golem Mastery gives your golems is upon summoning. And what this means is that you can have like some alternative equipment specifically for summoning golems. So if you wanted to have like some godlike swap or something, and I know Grimm's Burning Dead is not the godlike swap, but let's say, for instance, you found like some amazing +3 summon, +3 golem mastery wand or something that has like +3 to the specific golem that you want. So you're looking at like +6, and then you have like a really nice necro head over here with like +3 summoning and then +3 golem mastery, which could get you at like a total of what, like +12 between your hand and your shield. But let's just pretend you had this really awesome setup and you had +12 over here. You could very easily swap over to this set, cast your golem, and then swap back, because the effects of Golem Mastery are on cast, not constant. And so that golem that you summon is going to be summoned at the amazing level of your swap gear. And then you can, of course, swap back to whatever it is that you want to wear. In this way, you can definitely make some pretty powerful golems. And in the case of the Iron Golem, he is actually summoned upon entering the game. So if you have an Iron Golem for whatever reason, let's say, for instance, you have, I don't know, an Iron Golem that's made out of a IK Maul. So actually a good choice for Iron Golems. They're pretty strong, made out of IK Mauls. If you have an Iron Golem that's made out of an IK Maul, you can resummon him by entering the game. Every time you enter the game, he's resummoned. So if I had that mythical plus 12, like setup on my alternate hand, then all I have to do to get him at his full power is to leave the game and then rejoin the game. The moment that you join the game, he is summoned. You can actually hear it. That is the moment that he's summoned. So he is summoned right then when you join the game at the current level that whatever your Iron Golem is. And that will set him for the entire game. So until you leave, or if he dies, which is unfortunate, but until you leave the game, he is at that level set for the entire time. So you can have some pretty awesome, like, plus Golem Mastery equipment, plus Iron Golem equipment, things like that, and you can summon him at an insanely godlike level, and then you take that equipment off and put on your real gear. And the same thing goes for any of your other golems. So if you have a fire golem and you want to summon the most godlike, amazing fire golem that ever existed upon the land, like, you could put on some crazy equipment. You could throw on like a blue +3 summoning amulet, a blue +3 helmet. You could throw on, that amazing, like, +3, +3, +3 head and +3, +3, +3 wand, and then, like, throw on 2 Sojas and put your mage fists on, and then, like, throw in some extra skillers. And by the time you're done, you're going to have, like, a level 60 frickin' fire golem. And then you summon him, of course, and that's it. You take all that crap off and you put on your real equipment because you don't need all that stuff on. And a lot of the Necromancer works this way. The Skeletons work this way. The Skeleton Mages work this way. All the Golems work this way. If whatever level that you summon them at, that's the level they stay until they're resummoned. And Golem Mastery is great, in my opinion, because it's like the cheap trick way to build all of the Golems. So if you've ever wanted to just have a Swiss knife army tool Necromancer that has all of the golems, this is the easiest way to do it. Just throw 20 points into Golem Mastery specifically, and then 1 point into each one of the golems. They will be strong enough, combined with your plus to skills, that they will be able to tank just about anything. As you can see, my Clay Golem has 19,272 health with 1 point. My Blood Golem has 46,000 health with 1 point. My Iron Golem is sitting at close to 10k with 1 point, which is pretty decent. And my Fire Golem is sitting at, 9,724. So very easy to get yourself a decent Golem with only, 21, 22, 23, 24 points. And if you're a Summon Necromancer, you're going down this tree anyway to get revives, which means you really only spend 1 extra point into Fire Golem. And if you don't want the Fire Golem, I understand, because he's kind of crappy. And if you're not building him specifically, he's kind of the worst Golem. If you build him specifically, he can be interesting, but he's just not really a great Golem to have as like an addition. Whereas the Iron Golem can be useful if you want to do like meditation and things like that. And the Blood Golem can be useful if you want to have like more sustainability. And the Clay Golem is absolutely amazing because of the slows target proc, the 62% slows enemy by. They all have their individual uses, but the Fire Golem is kind of like the worst of the lot in terms of his individual usefulness, and unless you're building him specifically, he doesn't really have much usefulness. Unless you're like a Poison Nova Necromancer and you're trying to finish off that target that's running away with 1 health. They're interesting to use in those cases because the Holy Fire proc can finish off, obviously, the 1 health targets pretty easily from the Fire Golem. There's really not a lot more to go over with Golem Mastery. I think I've covered pretty much everything of this ability. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and keep watching.